Okay. Sweat Equity Podcast and streaming show, the #1 comedy business podcast in the world. Pragmatic entrepreneurial advice with real raw dog talk. Hosted by me, Lyle Smith, and to my right, your left of the tube, Eric Redinger.
Some people call me Cool Eric.
You know it.
2020's best small, medium enterprise business advisory podcast in the United States. And for 2021's best podcast and streaming entertainment studio, Eastern United States Media Innovator Awards 2020, hosted by Corporate Vision Magazine. We have a guest on that's talking about the most accurate way to retain employees, the most accurate test, personality-wise. This was a good one. This was, usually we do dog shit. This one, really good.
Yeah, this is Nerd Boner Extreme time.
If you want to help out the show, listen on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, subscribe, rate, review, 5-star, write a little comment, write a sentence, write a haiku. That would be great. We'll read it on air. This episode is sponsored by Grasshopper. Try grasshopper.com/sweat. Get you $75 off the Entrepreneur's phone app. Have a second line. Don't have a Google Voice number. Don't have your business or brand phone number go to yourself and you go, who this? Yeah. What's this number? Don't do that. Have a separate phone. You can have a little app. You can make a vanity number. Like,
right, all the good ones are taken, but you'll come up with a new number.
Like 1-855
69 420.
Boom.
69.
No, 420 6969.
Sure. Yes.
Yeah, for
all of it.
For swingers clubs that like to smoke.
Yep.
Try grasshopper.com/sweat, like Keith Sweat or Sweat Equity. $75 off an annual plan. Let's get this party started with some psych ops. Hotty toddy.
What about my sweat equity? Sweat equity. Sweat equity. My sweat equity. My sweat equity. Sweat equity. What about my sweat equity?
We're really trying to have like comedy business podcast kind of genre. Think more real talk than your LinkedIn news feed. Not saccharine sweet PRE kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like
More World Star newsfeed. If that helps.
Excellent. Well, yeah. So, I mean, as far as connecting, I can be connected with on LinkedIn. Name's Chaz Mascarino, MOSCARINO. It's a good place to get me there. Or my email is chazm@mascarino.net.
Oh, giving the email out to the folks. I love it.
He ain't scared.
I don't know, brother. You said
Yeah,
way
do
to
it.
No, it's up
Good.
to you. No, I appreciate it. We give out our email too on the show. So we're like, worst case, you just don't read a bunch of emails.
Well, if you get some sort of weird bad email where they're coming at you, you come back with that, and we talk about that on the show. Like, we're gonna go through that.
That's fodder.
If you get some kind of this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Yeah, we'll talk about that.
So about 6 months ago, Eric was preening about the culture index and how great it was. We were working somewhere where we had to take it, and I got fired before I really got my results. So Eric gave them to me later.
Yeah. Well, Chaz and I we went over them pretty thoroughly because we had them. We still had it.
Did it say I'm Don Draper?
No, interestingly, and Chaz, I'm sure will correct me because he's got some kind of weird Rain Man memory for people's personality profiles, but yours and I's was like a perfect mirror.
Right.
Like mine fell on one side of the red line, and it mirrored it. If you flipped it, was your side.
Well, I'd say that's accurate. We've worked together for 5-6 years. We've never really had an argument of any sort.
No.
And I think we are complementary in a lot of ways. That's why we can do this show really, pretty fluidly. And when I had the agency we were doing, never really, we just got shit done and played to our strengths. So I would say from that standpoint, if that's how it showed on the results, I'd say this is pretty accurate.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't looked at yours in a long time. I know Eric just because I spent time with him. So, he.
Yeah. So Just to so I hit Chaz up recently after talking about the culture index on the podcast, and I was like, I want to see what's up with that. Like, I still think about it, like it'll like register with me just certain things about certain people, and I hit up Chaz, seeing like how he got into it and what how does that work, to get in with that company and what it's like. And Chaz was like, well, I know your profile and they ain't gonna hire you. And I was like, well, what? Yeah, but what? Oh, shit. Okay, well, that's the end of that. It was like very cut and dry. Like, well, your profile does not fit the type of person we want to hire for that position. And if we went and hired you, it would kind of negate everything we do.
Oh, to work for his brand.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, that's funny.
It was just like the most strict. I was like, well, you want to come on the podcast?
I basically know everything about you.
Right. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I know how you're hardwired, and you're not going to enjoy it anyway. So
right. Yes.
So
like, well, thanks, man.
keep your day job.
So we talk about a lot of these I guess you call them professional psych tests of sorts. I don't know what the genre is officially called, but
yeah,
like Myers-Briggs is kind of we now know it's not very accurate. It doesn't really tell you a lot. It's fun. It's I like 16personalities.com, like a Cosmo teen quiz, but it doesn't really do much other than make you feel better about yourself a little bit.
That is me.
Yeah, I am the visionary, but yours and the Asher strategies, I would say, are the only two that I would trust. How did you arrive at doing this?
Yeah. So the quick story is, I'm in a CEO group and I'm part of an entrepreneur organization. And so I had to make a critical move in the business about 5-6 years ago. And I leaned into my forum and I'm like, hey guys, what do you think I should do? Because if I mess this move up for my business, it can cost us millions. And so like they're like, hey, we've been telling you about this program. Why don't you pick up the phone and have a conversation? So I'm a pretty skeptical guy. So like, what is this silly 7-10 minute survey going to tell me? And I jumped on the phone, had a conversation, and I was pretty blown away by the math and the statistics. And I made a move based off that I never would have made for that position, became a client, and I never really looked back, So I started helping a lot of my CEO friends out that were just buddies because I was getting the hang of it and I was really starting to understand it. And I'm like, I really enjoy this. So it wasn't really about the money for me. It was really about just helping, and it was more of a passion. So I got the business set up where it really didn't need me on the day-to-day. And then I've been spending probably about 60-70% of my time, traveling around the country teaching this language to other CEOs and business owners and leadership teams.
Interesting. And how is it received when you're giving, I guess, given the results or because people, I'm constantly, I've been obsessed lately about what we think things are and then what they actually are when you get the numbers or you get the data or whatever it is. I'm in, the marketing world a lot. So I just kind of think in that mode a lot. This kind of is to me that maybe I'm missing the mark, but that this is kind of that kind of who you think you are, who you think you should be maybe, or my little.
Yeah. I mean, so we're measuring a couple of things, we're measuring one, who are you who do you wake up to be every day? So by the age of 11 or 12 years old, we're pretty much hardwired by that age. So psychologists will say, DNA, mommy, daddy, nature versus nurture, but it is what it is. And that's one thing that we're measuring. And then the second thing is, who do you perceive you need to be at work every day when you show up? And so when we're looking at that, Gallup does this poll every year about employee engagement. Well, we're looking at employee engagement on one of our graphs. And so 70% of those are usually out of whack. And, so why the disparity? It's usually we're taking people, asking them to modify to be someone they're not, or we don't have the right people leading or managing them. And so like we can see all of that in the data and the human analytics. And so, most importantly, people come to us thinking it's a hiring tool. And I'm like, listen, if you want a hiring tool, there's 100 of those out there. This is a human capital strategy of where you're taking the business. So it's much more than hiring. It's like 90% is management and strategy. These are the humans I have. Where am I going inside the business? And how do I use these people to get me where I'm going? And by the way, where are my holes going to be as I continue to scale and grow this thing? Or is it a lifestyle business, right? Those are all the questions we're asking. And, you asked the question about, how do people take the information? I don't want to misquote you here, but something along those lines. And so when I go through this, I know who my buying patterns are. We have 3 to 4 buying patterns that I'm really going after that are going to really do well with the program. And so when I do this in front of a leadership team, I'll ask them straight up, like, guys, do you want the PG-13 version of this, or do you want me to take the gloves off? And then they're usually like, take the gloves off. And sometimes they don't like what they hear. But, that's part of what I do. So I'm a pretty direct, blunt individual, and I just call it how it is. There's a war on talent, and I don't pitter patter around it. So for me, it's all about bigger, better, faster, stronger. How do we take this and mobilize it into businesses to create a competitive advantage? That's what we're doing.
Yeah. I've been talking about this a lot lately too. The war on finding talent. I forget how you phrase that. But I don't think we're that good at hiring, just in general. I don't think we look into even the basic psychology of a person really that well. I think and that's how you end up with an office full of people that you don't like working around, I think.
Right.
Sometimes.
No, well, you've got the person doing the hiring on a whim. I have a feeling about this person, and that's just how it is. And then they have a bunch of people that they had a feeling about, and ain't none of those people like each other, and it sucks. And then it's like this is able to like address, well, this person will work well with this person. Like
it's not
Kim,
planned.
Like Kim and I.
Yeah.
Kim Lackey has been on the podcast, and she and I have personality profiles where, and we did work well together where, I was more detail oriented and she was more big picture thinking, all that sort of stuff. And it helps solve a lot of problems ahead of time. From what
she's 100% offense. I mean, I remember her profile.
Right.
Yeah. Pure offense, proactive traits. She's a go-getter. Go out there, let it rain, and, don't sweat the details, right? She needs someone to clean up her mess.
Verbally too. Yeah.
Too.
She does a California stop where everybody.
I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm gonna say it, and I just keep saying it, and then I say the thing I shouldn't say, and then it's what happens next.
And then she does
never hit the brakes.
And then she does the cop out of "I'm Cuban." That's what we do.
Right.
It's like a New Yorker, like I'm a New Yorker. Tell it like it is.
And that's how it is.
Sorry, we cut you off.
Oh, no. Well, and you were saying, like, we tend to hire people that we like or that can show well in the interviews. And so what I always say is, I call this a cheat sheet to humans. Like, people that are more social and charismatic and that have, more charisma and more outgoing, they feel like they can read people. And truly, they are better at that than more of us introverts, right? So they can get better gut instincts. And so the program really is designed for us more introspective humans, because this gives us a layer of data on the front end before we're sitting across from them at the table. And so what I always like to tell my clients is like, listen, take your introvert, take your extrovert, throw them in that interview when you're going in there, but have CI on the front end. And what we do in our company is, we have the data before we're even communicating with anybody. So we're not even talking to anybody unless we have the human analytics on the first part. And then we'll make a decision if we want to have a conversation. And the other thing I say is, like, listen, we can't see batshit crazy. Like, if they have a drug problem, they have an alcohol problem, I can't see that in the math. So you still have to vet them through your process. But just again, as a reminder, that's 10% of what we're doing here is that hiring piece. Most of this thing is really designed to teach us how to retain that talent that we have. The hard part isn't usually finding it, it's keeping it for sustainable periods.
Yeah, we're in an era where a lot of people are getting back to work and unemployment is starting to get low again, and people are jumping around because it's a good time to kind of look elsewhere. And I feel like that emphasis on retaining, it's not really well thought out a lot of places. Just broad strokes, obviously. I mean, but
even like the idea of not retaining them. Should I retain? Like, maybe they should go, sort of thing. Like, they're both sides of it, can be helped with this.
Well, I mean, guys, I could tell you stories and stories. Like, I had a call today with the CEO and, his director of ops. We were looking at his profile. I go, how would you rate him on a scale of 1 to 10? You can't give me a 7. He's like, an 8. I go, I'd rate him a 4. And I go, 1, he's disengaged, and you're looking for X, Y, and Z. You just told me he's literally the polar opposite. So here's what's going to happen. And I walk them through it. And so, like, those are some hard decisions, right? The other thing, it's like, we have visionary and integrator. We have those conversations all the time. And sometimes I have, second generation, mom and dad started the business and we're giving it to the kids. And a lot of those are difficult conversations because the kids aren't visionary like the parent or the mom or dad, and like, how are we going to put those people inside that organization and continue to drive growth? Or maybe it's a lifestyle business, but those are the conversations we're having all the time. And we can get that data in, less than 10 minutes. And that's what's really fascinating to me.
No, it's interesting to have this thing, this test that has a high confidence rate. And like you said, it's not the absolute, right? It can't tell you everything, but it's gonna give you pretty much that nautical beacon when you're driving your boat to kind of go, okay, this person's in, this person's out of the wake, to kind of guide you into that person.
Yeah, from what I've seen, it's the best start you can get.
Yeah, it's not a silver bullet.
Right.
I mean, we made plenty of mistakes using this, but it just adds a layer of data. And for me, I think just as a user, it's more or less, okay, what is my liver willing to tolerate to bring XYZ into the business? Like we're heavy in the blue collar, like we have a lot of $15 to $25 an hour employees with us. And we know basically we're looking for maybe 5 or 6 different profiles to bring into that department. Well, the labor market's tight right now. We can't always find that. So, are we okay with bringing this in? Well, if we are, at least we know how to manage them and not to expect them to be someone else. That's really important. And I have manufacturing companies, the same conversation. Labor's tight right now. I just had a call with one of my manufacturers today. They can't get bodies, right? They're looking for these specific profiles. Well, this is what's walking in the door right now. They have a decision to make, but at least they know how to manage them, and their managers have been trained on how to mobilize this and teach these and train these people.
It's interesting. I was thinking about this more in a white collar kind of scenario, but the trades kind of area, the blue collar workers, I didn't even put it in that context for some reason. Do you find that people who work with this program, this index in the blue collar or the trades kind of area, really excel with this a lot better? Because, they might get a lot of younger people or, people that, like a plumber right now is very, very coveted, a good one, right? They can make a lot of money. A lot of people don't realize that. I like to point to an underwater TIG welder can make $130 an hour. But do you find it's better in blue collar scenario or white collar, or does it matter? Or is it more about the management as a whole?
I mean, here's how I would answer that. At what point in time would you not want to have this data for any of the above? Right. So I have this on my attorneys. I have this on the cleaner of my house. I have this on the labor, the subcontractors in our business. Like we used to hire cleaning companies. Now I know exactly what I'm looking for. I just put ads up and I try to hire my own, because I know I need a high conformist. I want someone that can do repetitive, so like I know exactly what I'm looking for. So, and think of it with attorneys. There's contract law, and then there's the litigator, right? Like my litigator and my contract attorney in my world are 2 different things. Maybe they're the same in yours, but for our company, we have 2 different attorneys. I don't want my contract attorney trying to go battle and do litigation. And they're 2 different profiles.
They're finder, grinder attorneys, right? It's one goes out and gets the business a lot of the time. The other's in the office doing the paperwork, and the other's grinding it out in the courtroom. Yeah, that's a good example.
And I have clients that are attorneys. They're law firms. So like they utilize it for the same thing.
Yeah, not limited to business.
No, but to answer your question with blue collar, yeah, I think it's really important, right? So we can measure, how people take in new information, in one of our trades. And so, I personally think that's one of the most fascinating things that we measure, is how logical people are, right? So like we can see if someone's going to have a temper, if they're emotionally unstable, if they're going to be drama in the workplace. I mean, that alone for us was worth every dollar we were paying for that, just from that alone.
I can attest to that one being so fucking accurate to the point of creepiness where I was like, oh shit.
What do you mean?
Without getting into too much detail, I had access to everybody's profiles too, and I could look at it, and that part of it was totally dead on. It was kind of creepy. Just the certain people in the office cause more drama than others, and it shows on the culture index
really
profile. Oh yeah.
So if you give it to a bunch of hairstylists, it'd be off the charts.
I mean, Chaz, that's, but.
Well, look, I worked for a salon suite franchise. The number one reason I thought it was to make more money, they would come into these salon suites and have their own business. The number one reason, by far, 95%, the reason, number one, was salon drama. And so it's like, oh man. And they don't know they create it sometimes too.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's interesting that, you can kind of go, okay, well, these personalities are going to conflict and we're only going to have, if they're not commission based, it's going to be a lot of stress.
Yeah. I mean, I think it'd be good, Chaz, if you could kind of explain without getting too detailed, just why CI is, a step above, just given the, I guess you call it open-ended way that the survey is presented. I mean, I remember you giving that sort of, introductory.
Yeah. Well, listen, we used to use a bunch of different assessment tools back in the day, DISC, Myers-Briggs. There's a bunch of different things, but for me, it never really changed the way that I thought as a leader. And so what was different for me here was that, I'm trained how to read this. My team was trained how to read this and mobilize it. And it really became a language inside the business. And so when people say, oh, I've taken behavioral assessments before, it was kind of accurate. Well, the reason they say that is because it's kind of accurate, right? I mean, the validity for a lot of these surveys or these assessments are between 0.55 or 0.7 in validity. And so if I say I'm a sharpshooter and I'm hitting a target, 60 or 70% of the time, am I really a sharpshooter? And the answer to that is no. And so, we were able to get validity to 0.9. And so when we say we're using very sharp math, we're using extremely sharp math. And one of the reasons we were able to get there is because it's not a forced choice assessment, right? So if you've taken DISC or Myers-Briggs, it's like, well, that's not me. I don't know. That's not really me. I guess I'm going to pick that. And you're forced into picking something. So with this type of assessment, it's free choice where it's like, it's either you or it's not. You either pick it or you don't. And that's how, again, we got to some of the validity that we were able to get to. Yeah,
it's funny. I remember when you were still there, I had already taken the survey, and then I think we had a company meeting, something going on where you were like, I was like, did you take the survey? And you're like, no, I didn't do it yet. I was like, well, take the survey, do this shit.
I did it, but I lied on it.
Right. But I sat there and I watched you do it, and because I had just taken it, and basically you're choosing adjectives, and I had just done it my way, and then I sat there and watched Law do it, where he was like, "We got to pick all the one," and he went through it and he picked the ones that he thought, and I was like, "I don't know, does that matter?" And then we had a discussion: how's this work? Like, what the hell? And it's like, all of that matters. Yes, all that shit matters. That you're the type of person who will go through and choose all of the synonyms for what you want.
I had to look up a lot of the words.
Right, he's looking words. I'm like, I don't think that's how it's supposed to go. Whatever.
I'm like a lazy perfectionist.
Yeah.
You
were cramming.
No. I knew I was getting fired, or I knew I felt it coming. So it was one of those things. And look, when I came in there, I was told there's a dark cloud over the marketing area. And I was like, yeah, okay. So it's not like, it wasn't like a shock or anything, but it was one of those things where it was like, okay, I think you told me the CEO at the time he's really big about this. Okay, great. I'm going to try to figure out how to game this.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to...
Which they have measures against.
I didn't know that. I just was like...
Well, you didn't game it. I mean, you had a valid result.
I probably was closer to the truth than anything, because I know I did it really quickly in front of you. And I was like, Eric, what's this word mean? I'm going to look it up.
Yeah.
But I was just like, what would the model employee look like?
Yeah, exactly.
And so... I was going to confess this at the end of the episode, but it doesn't matter anyway. But it's one of those things where, so you're saying the confidence rate of this, we can get in some regression charts, some adjusted R squared, let's do it. But you're saying the confidence rate of this is at 90%. Is that what you said?
It's 0.9 validity is where the retest test came in, the reliability.
That's amazing.
So yeah, they it's a long story, but in 2004 is when they completed the assessment, and then it was ready to go to market. It was back in 2004.
Yeah, no, I'm feeling it. I mean,
let me. So I like talking about Enneagram just for funsies.
I don't know much about it, so I might not have a lot to give you about
I know, right, Chaz?
The-
I was like, fuck that.
Fucking fanboy. Yeah, fuck that test, bruh. I don't need that.
You're not
shit.
cool like me and Chaz.
I can like both things. I'm bi. I'm
I know,
bi
but-
for all these tests.
Yeah, but I don't get it. The Enneagram.
It's not great. It is okay. It's okay, right? Like again, culture index, Asher strategies. To me, these are the only ones that to me are something I could really hang my hat on. Enneagram is more closer like Myers-Briggs a bit. What I've heard from Enneagram, there's 9 personalities, and they all have like their own offshoot of that, like subsets of that. What was interesting about that one, it'll help you write a script if you ever need that. So like you give you kind of stereotypical personality traits. That's why we did it with like Marvel characters, because it's like these are how these characters can interact, and you can figure out which one's which Enneagram number. What was interesting was that you can change. You can be I'm a 7 with a 6 wing or something, the enthusiast or something like that. But over time, you can change your score. Is that true in with the culture index? If I take it 10 years from now, will it be a lot different? Or could it be different, I should say?
The answer to that is no. So
Whoa.
yeah, I mean who you are and who you're naturally hardwired as at the age of 11 or 12 years old. In our world, psychologists will say that's not going to change. Now, our life experiences change, right? For instance, too, like, my conformity trait is very low. And so, like, that is something that I'm consciously aware of. And I try to mitigate systems inside my business to accommodate for that. But does that change the fact that I still have low conformity? No. But I have systems and processes built up and try to mitigate those things. So it's really being more aware. But again, yeah, that is not going to change. And I have people that argue and debate that, and that's fine.
Have you had a bunch of people try to take it, years apart and just to see? Or
well, they did do test reliability, and so again, the standard unit of deviations of that moving is extremely small, right? So it's like 0.5, 0.25, where those centiles may move on that bell curve, but it's very, very small.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You look like you had something.
No, I was trying to remember what personality pattern Chaz was looking at it, because he said his conformity is very low.
I'm a
philosopher or an enterpriser?
No, I'm an enterpriser.
Oh yeah, hey, that's pretty good. Out of 19, I guess the second try, that's pretty good.
Hey, that was good.
Thanks, Chaz.
Yeah, I had my name. I had my name badge out when I was teaching you guys.
This is the most you fanboyed out on a guest.
Yeah, kind of.
For sure.
Kind of.
This is like if we had Bo Jackson on. I'd be like, "Hello, sir."
Yeah.
Hello. So we're. What do you find? I was going to say, what do you find when people aren't accepting of this? But it sounds like your target audience, when you're talking to anybody, you already got that info. Like the way it sounded like 10 minutes ago, you're talking about like, I give it to my attorney, I give it to this person, I give it to all the people I hire. I feel like you go to a party and you're like, hey, I got this test. Why don't you take about 10 minutes over there?
I'll find you
a cocktail.
Yeah.
My wife's much better at that than I am.
Really?
Yeah. Well, she's more social than I am. She's more charismatic. So she's better at getting the surveys. She says the dots don't lie.
Ooh, I like that.
But yeah, I mean, am I always trying to analyze people? Of course I am. I mean, that's part of what I do now. So I'm always trying to analyze them. But the thing is I don't always get it right, because I don't understand the why behind why someone's doing something. Like we're all modifying throughout the course of the day. And so I don't know what's showing up. I don't know who the real person is I'm really communicating with, or if they're modifying. Like think of someone in an interview, they're modifying. So, when I have a cheat sheet in front of me, I can call that bluff, or I can see if they're being very ethical about the things I'm asking them. I can also see if they're engaged where they're currently working, or if they're disengaged. I can see all that based on the data. So it kind of gives me a leg up in that conversation when we're having those, when we're having interviews.
Do you find it with relationships? Do you find that it can help? Is this more in the professional world or occupational world, or do you find you can kind of see what works? Because look,
he definitely gave his wife the test.
I know. So that's why I'm asking, because Eric and I would say if we were gay, we'd be a great gay couple. Like amazing.
Confirmed.
We're heterosexual life mates, but I mean, like we'd be awesome. Play Sega, go make out, all that stuff. So
great place in Key West.
yeah. I got the leg power, so it'd be power bottom. Sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think it could be used.
We'll cut that out. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I mean, we all talk about top line and bottom line in business, but I think the biggest impact that's really had on me was really in my personal life and in my family, understanding how, my family's hardwired, right? Like I've known them my entire life, but this just helps connect the dots for me. And then also the kids in the family, I asked one of my mentors, like I just had my first baby, she's 20 months old. And before I had her, I'm like, hey, I kind of want to raise a highly autonomous female. And he was like, well, what's your wife's profile? And I told him, and he's like, well, let her raise the baby.
Don't touch the baby.
No, well, because so like highly autonomous people, they're the best problem solvers on the face of the planet, right? So what usually happens is, we knock the autonomy out of them. We're solving their problems for them. And so it hit home for me. And I'm always consciously aware of the actions I'm even having at home with my kid. So I just think that's really important.
Sure.
But and that's not what we do, right? Like that's not what I'm teaching. But for me, it's just something I'm always consciously aware of.
It's like a residual benefit of this whole index.
Sure. And I did.
And like I have a 5-year-old boy, 3-year-old girl, and you grow like in my 20s. I'm like, it's a lot of nurture. And then I watch my kids and I'm like, man, they had these personalities, like even as soon as they could make any kind of gestures, right? As soon as they could do anything, you're like, my son's very sensitive and sweet, but he's very enthusiastic about everything. And I think a lot of that's from me. The sensitive part's his mom. And then like my daughter, I'm Cincy. Well, look, I'll cry at Big Fish and I'll cry at the end of Interstellar. I can't help it.
Yeah.
And my daughter's is like an alpha woman already. We call her Boss Baby, and she's a lot like a lot of the women in my family that a lot of people around this town are scared to talk to.
We'll cut that too.
No, keep it in. Look, I'll tell the story. My grandma Adele used to go to my dad's football games at Robinson High, where Terry Bollea, Hulk Hogan went, and she would drive in a huge Cadillac, old school Cadillac, get there right before kickoff, and then pretend to be blind and walk up to get the seat she wanted, and no one would talk shit to her because everybody's scared of her. That is the gene that's going down, a little bit of that alpha woman thing.
Or maybe they were all just really nice to the blind lady.
No, they
why
all knew.
Why would they be scared
they all
of the blind
knew.
lady?
No, they all knew.
Then why did she need to pretend to be blind?
I don't know. We're fucking nuts on one side of the family.
There's a piece of this story that's not.
This doesn't add into my personality at all.
No,
I'm a little wild.
Is she badass or is she blind? Is what I'm saying.
No, she's badass. She's cool. But I'm saying, you were talking about observing human behavior. I love doing stand up because there's always an endless trough of that, right? Like just watching people interact. Just a lot of it, I get. A lot of my jokes come out of frustration of seeing people do shit that's like, why are you doing this? Like, especially in traffic. Like, if I see another person that's on their phone, you can see you're right in front of them, and you can see them on their phone. They're not paying attention. You honk, and then they're like, "What?" But you can see their head pop up. They definitely weren't paying attention. I'm like, what was this a thing? I know cell phones made it happen, but like, were people this checked out? And
we're at the all-time worst for traffic shit until all cars drive themselves, and we have we're fucked for a few years.
Yeah,
but it'll be over soon.
Yeah. So I think. So I think like observing human behavior of like, well, that if you ask that person, they probably tell you they're a good driver, right? And
nobody says I'm a bad driver.
I've had some people say that. Yeah,
I'd like to hear that.
My ex-wife said it. But the thing of like what they think they are versus what they actually are. Do you find that's the disparity of the test? Because for anybody who doesn't know, you fill it out. I know you said it at the top of the show, but you fill out your personality and then and it's a bunch of adjectives, I believe, like 100, and you go through it and check it off, and then
as many as you want or as few as you want.
And then the second page is who you need to be at the workplace, right?
Yeah. who you feel you should be at the workplace? And Chaz, you can definitely explain it better.
Yeah. I mean, so it's who are you hardwired to be, or who do you wake up to be every day, and then who's showing up at work, basically. And so, I think, I had a call today with somebody, and I had to tell him that he's not visionary. It's him and it's his partner and himself.
Probably didn't see it coming, right?
Partners. What's that?
You probably didn't see it coming.
Ooh,
No, he didn't see it coming.
Podcast now on that.
That's funny.
And he's like, no, I'm visionary. He's like, I have 5-year goals. I'm like, well, I didn't say you can't set goals. I said you're still micro, small picture, and you can still have plans and goals, but you're not visionary. So you're intrinsically motivated from the past and being accurate, not by moving forward. That's different. Like a visionary, someone that's, pure offense, or that is an analytical, in our world, gifted visionary, their brains literally live in the future. When they're driving to work every day, they're 2, 3, 4, 5 years out, and that's where their brains live. And so he just wasn't that person. And I said, your partner is, you guys are a great team, but he's visionary. You could be integrator, right? So like those are conversations that I'm having all the time, and sometimes that doesn't go over well, and sometimes that takes time for that to sink in and for them to digest.
Yeah, man.
What now? Do you find that when we've taken a couple of these? I'm going to relate it to the Asher strategies because that's the only one I know that's as accurate or closest to as accurate as the Culture Index. It gives you scores on kind of departments you be in a job, and so like my admin, clerical, project management all score low, but it told me my proclivity for those things. It doesn't mean you can't do it, right? But it just means you don't get up every day to do it. Is that kind of a little bit of what y'all have in this Culture Index? And I'm asking dumb guy math. I'm working off 6 months ago when we talked about this a lot, and then small conversation since. So I'm doing the dumb guy kind of questions. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking at you. I'm like, I hope this doesn't offend him. That I didn't prep. But do you feel like is this your proclivities just naturally how you're hardwired, but it doesn't mean you can't do it? Or is that not a real thought?
Well, I mean, we could all modify and do things that we're not naturally hardwired to do. It doesn't mean we can do it well. It doesn't mean we're going to enjoy doing it, right? So, the whole purpose of this is to understand and put people in the right seats where they're going to succeed. That's what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, there is a portion of it that kind of accounts for that modification. And, like I scored low and I was like, what, really? And I thought, and of course, the more I thought about it, I was like, that's kind of right. Like it was fun because we're sitting in, a meeting of all the leadership, and Chaz is looking at everybody's profile. And he's like, all right, let's look at Eric's. Yeah, see, Eric's probably miserable at work. And I was like, yo, what the fuck? Don't say that.
Bro, don't call me out.
What's the difference in it? And then the EU's low and all this. I was like, man, what the hell? And I mean, I wasn't real. Well, looking back, maybe I was.
What if you're kind of emotionally bummed out? Does that affect any of that? Like
Where's the divorce points?
Yeah, I went through a brutal divorce. And if I took it then, I don't know how. I really lost my sense of self, right? Really got in that dark hole, depressed, and kind of got out of it as soon as we, eventually got out. I got out of that kind of hole. Is it going to reflect that if I take it?
No, I mean, it's a great question. And that's why we have the question so simple. It's really just 2 simple questions. Describe yourself and describe who you need to be at work. That's it. Describe yourself, describe who you need to be at work. And so, based off that data, that's how we're coming up with this math and statistics. And like, there is ways that we can see if it's an inaccurate survey or someone tried to game it. We have trick mechanisms in there to see if someone's trying to mess with it or game it. And that's our job, is to make sure that we're getting accurate data to give back to these leadership teams so they can make critical decisions.
So when I thought I was being clever, trying to game it, you already had your 3D chess. I'm playing checkers on this thing.
Yeah, I mean, you weren't flagged. You're all right.
I don't remember.
Did it tell you I have herpes?
That pops up.
It flares up every now and again.
It's a whole other dot.
Well, we always we want to we want to be respectful for your time. I'm a believer in this. After talking to you, Eric's been talking to me about it since we took it.
Mm-hmm.
We always ask our guests the first time they come on the show, what advice would you give your 13-year-old self?
Get a mentor.
Get a mentor.
Yep.
Did you grow up wanting that, or do you now realize you probably needed that?
I mean, I just made so many mistakes growing up. I didn't have, my family was great. I mean, I'm really close with my family. I just didn't have the leadership around me to drive growth or to innovate. And so I didn't have that. And so I had to figure things out a lot by myself. Or the other thing I guess I would say, when I say find a mentor, is find your group. That you're not going to do that at 13 years old. But as I got into my 20s, there's CEO organizations, there's Vistas, there's YPO, there's EO. Like some of those organizations have just been transformational because I'm in one of them, and I have a lot of friends that are in those organizations. And I think being part of a group like that, or a peer group, an industry-related peer group, is something that it can be transformational. Again, that's not going to be at 13 years old, but that's going to be later, in your 20s or 30s.
We've had over 100 guests on this show. That is definitely a unique answer.
Might have been the fastest response. Too.
Yeah.
Boom.
It's
Get a mentor.
It's like you listened to the show beforehand. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah,
I just go through it.
I think about that all the time.
Oh,
right?
really?
Like,
That's awesome.
What could have changed anything? And it would have been something like that. It's having that guidance even more when I was younger.
Do you think
and getting into those CEO groups when I was even younger? Because I was very hard-headed and thick-headed, and I still am. But I thought I knew it all. But people have done it before. People are way more successful than I am. And so if I would have had that growing up, even in my 20s, or who knows how that would have helped me.
Well, that's kind of what and I'm guessing you think a little bit more about it now because you have a kid, and you want to try to do what you can to make sure that exists for your kid, right? Everybody's good parents are always trying to fix what they think, they had a deficit in, right? But this is great having you on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Eric's gonna go squeal after we get off air.
So fun.
Thanks, guys. It was a pleasure.
All right, man. Thanks.